Welcome back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. And I aptly named our new brand Baltimore Positive. You can find all of our work as well as our friends at Cole Roofing. I'm about to drink some very much needed Rofo, real fresh, real fast, going to blend that I have on hand here, dropped off by Justin Tucker. And by the way, we're going to be delivering ice cream. And if there's anything that can salve the wounds of a dispirited season right now in the middle of a plague, it would be our friends at Taharka. I have the ice cream here. I'm going to be telling you more about that. The code will be Baltimore Positive when you save $15.70 off. We start delivering that this week. Lots and lots going on. I tell you what, Luke, we're going to need something positive to wash away the pain, and certainly they get to get back up and do it again on Thursday night in the aftermath of my wife's pumpkin pie, and I got some pumpkin spice latte ice cream from Taharka to go with my game on Thursday night. Tom Valente asked me if I'm coming to Pittsburgh Thursday night. It was almost like that old Joe Flacco commercial, was it, for Rosedale Federal, that said, Pittsburgh? I don't know, dude. It is this would be group therapy 12 hours a day, wouldn't it? Fire the coach, bench the player, which the coordinator, all that's going on now. This is a mess.
It really is. And look, there are those extreme positions that I think is certainly a step or two too far, but that's not to say that this team doesn't have issues. And even hearing the post game, when you're hearing players, when you're hearing the Derek Wolfs of this team, who haven't been around long, but have been around the block. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been on some special defenses before, where he just completely calls out not just his defense, but himself on the last touchdown run to Derrick Henry, where he misses the tackle. I mean, I hate to say it, Nestor, because you look at where this team is right now. They're 6-4. They're on the outside looking in through 11 weeks, but also acknowledging they have a very favorable December schedule once they get past whatever happens Thursday night in Pittsburgh. Certainly not a game where I think too many people are feeling good about their chances at this point. But when you're hearing about effort and more, and you're hearing Lamar Jackson even saying things like that, and look, I'm not picking on Lamar, but he's the MVP of the league. He's a quarterback. He had a historic 2019, and this team had a historic season. But you start to wonder what's under the hood. It's really easy for everyone to be happy and psyched and tough when you're going out there and you're beating teams by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Hooping and hollering in the post-game press conferences, and Mark Ingram being the hype man for Lamar Jackson's MVP campaign. And look, that's all great. That's all fun. But this isn't 2019 anymore. This is a team that has significant issues.
Dude,
now,
you were going into an alley
injuries.
fight with Marshall Yanda. There's a reason he's going to the Hall of Really Good, right? And I'll keep going back to that, that when you give a team a heart transplant and you ask Lamar Jackson, who's now in the postgame talking about everybody's rooting against us, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, that's where we are? Really? That's – Joe Flacco wouldn't have said that. Trent Dilfer wouldn't have said that. I'm just going through the champions around here. I don't think Patrick Mahomes would say everybody's rooting against us. Dude, come on, man. I mean, I'm growing a little frustrated amidst this as well to say where is the leadership, which is why I asked that question in the postgame on Sunday. First question of the year, by the way, in these hostage videos.
And I don't want to make it all about Lamar, because it's not all about Lamar.
It's not.
He's the quarterback. He's the MVP of the league coming off last year. And to your point, when you're no longer having a Marshall Yanda, when you have lost some key players on either side of the ball, but specifically the offensive line, when you have some guys who, let's face it, if you're talking about a Marquise Brown, has regressed. He's not as good as he was last year at this point. And you're just looking at how all of this fits or doesn't fit. It's very disconcerting. And look, you can talk about the injuries, and that's certainly a big part of this. But take a look at the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. They lost Taylor Lewan, their Pro Bowl left tackle, in October for the season, just like the Ravens lost Ronnie Stanley at the beginning of this month. Lost for the season. They didn't have their left guard. Their center was kind of in and out, didn't practice the entire week. Jadeveon Clowney, their edge rusher, who hasn't had a great season for them, acknowledging that, but a high-impact player, was placed on IR on Friday. Kenny Vaccaro, their starting safety, was ruled out on Saturday. So you kind of go down. Adoree Jackson, their starting cornerback, was ruled out on Friday. So Buck Showalter used to say this a lot, and other coaches and managers have said this, but you can talk about injuries, you can talk about schedule, you can talk about officiating, you can go through any of those things that, quite frankly, you can't necessarily control in the moment. And he would always say, well, yeah, that's an excuse that's convenient if you want it to be, but no one's going to feel sorry for you. And that was kind of Derek Wolf's point in the post game. He kind of said, look, Tennessee's good and they have injuries and they have some young guys they're counting on too. And well, they got the job done and we didn't. And I think what's really concerning is, if this had just been a back and forth game the entire way, and it was just a shootout and they lose by a field goal at the very end, or even if it goes into overtime like that, this team had a 2-score lead in the third quarter. And kind of think back to how Tennessee was operating. They were driving inside the 10-yard line. Their center goes out. They run a wildcat play to Derrick Henry, snaps the ball over his head, torpedoes the drive, field goal instead. And what I thought was such a huge, maybe turning point might be a little strong, but I thought it was very telling, was when Tennessee got down to the Ravens 3rd and 2 with a little over 11 minutes to go. To me, you paid Derrick Henry, what, a $50 million contract I think he got? How do you not give him the ball on 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2 if necessary to, at the very least, get the first down? Instead,
yeah, you're going to lose on that hill, right? I mean, if you're going to lose like that, I mean, we go back to the 49ers-Ravens game with Frank Gore, the identity, I mean, nothing more famous than Pete Carroll, right, and Marshawn Lynch. It really is amazing how you think this through. You mentioned Buck Showalter. I mean, how about Zach Britton, that there still are these moments where everybody in the stadium, and I know there were only about 20 of you there the other day, but is saying this is what I would do, this is what you would do. And it really is counterintuitive when these coaches start to think these things through, right?
No question. And it's funny you mentioned Zach Britton, because I mean, I think the big issue for this team is it's lost the ability to close on either side of the ball. And to go back to the point I was getting ready to make, though, 3rd and 2 from the 4-yard line, you're thinking Tennessee, why would you not pound it inside with Derrick Henry? I mean, that's why you're paying him the big bucks. They throw to the end zone and it's incomplete, and they kick a field goal. So you're thinking right there, okay, it's 21-16. It's a 1-score game, a little over 11 minutes to go. Last year in that scenario, what would we have been saying to each other in the press box? My goodness, this team just gave away its chance to win a football game because the Ravens are about to go on a 7-minute drive, pound the rock, run the ball, chew clock, and they're either going to score a touchdown or at the very least they're going to kick a field goal, and you're going to be faced with needing to score, and you're going to have a minute left to do it.
Well, last year was almost laughable to say, you're going to give us 4 plays and Lamar's going to have the ball, he'll get 10 yards. Well, he'll get to the sticks. Like, they'll find some way with those 4 plays to get to the sticks and just bleed you, right? As opposed to running you over, which is what Derrick Henry would do, or what traditionally people want to do, the Jamal Lewis tactics, right? But to your point, they cannot do that any longer. Those 10 yards feel more like it did with Joe Flacco, as I know you pointed out a few times Sunday.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny. I looked at Mike Vrabel's comments because he was actually asked in his postgame about kicking the field goal there. 4th and 2 from the 4-yard line. Analytics, the football analytics people are screaming at you in that situation typically to go for it there, especially when you're down by 8 points.
Well, the science would say if you're that close, it's as close as you're going to get, right?
And they would say the chances of you, if you're going to kick a field goal there, the chances of you stopping the Ravens from scoring and then coming back down and scoring a touchdown again in the final 11 minutes aren't as great as trying to convert a 4th and short. So again, I disagreed with that coaching decision. And look, other people will say, well, you're probably making too much of that, Luke. But then the Ravens come out, little over 11 minutes to go. They pick up 1 first down. Okay, great. and then they can't pick up another one. Lamar scrambled or runs off right end for 8 yards, the challenge spot. Did he get the first down or not? I'm not sure. I think he may have. I don't think the replay was conclusive enough to overturn it, which is kind of the nature of the beast. It's why John Harbaugh didn't challenge the one in New England last week. And you have 3rd and inches, and Mark Andrews gets flagged for a false start. And suddenly now 3rd and inches, which is where this team should eat.
By the way, it didn't
It's
feel
3rd
like
and
a life
6.
or death moment at that minute that they didn't get the first down. I mean,
I thought it was a big deal at the time. But
well, I thought it
yeah.
was a first down, but I thought, they'll get it. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
that's what I
right.
mean. At the time, I thought it's all right. Like, get back in the huddle. We'll get a yard. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, we're fine.
Sure, I agree.
And then it turns out to be this maybe tectonic plate for the season where I'm up in the afternoon rooting against the Colts, rooting against the Dolphins, right? Like we've gone from, what seed are we going to be to like rooting against teams at 4:00 and stuff like that, thinking like this is our only pathway all of a sudden. And it's not even Thanksgiving yet, right?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because the late game, Kansas City beating I made this mistake on Twitter, Las Vegas. but think about it. A few weeks ago, you would have been rooting for the Raiders, right? And rooting for Las Vegas and wanting to see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs go down. Now, it was better for the Ravens that the Chiefs beat the Raiders because the wild card's the path. If Pittsburgh beats the Ravens on Thursday night, the Ravens are eliminated from the division. They're 5 out with 5 to play, and they lose the tiebreaker head-to-head. So that's where they are now. Stop the talk about the number 1 seed. Stop the talk about the division. They're trying to be a wild card. That's where they are at this point. But going back to,
or as Ozzy would say, get in the tournament.
Right, sure. And look, I mean, there's still plenty to that. I mean, look at how this team's won its previous 2 Super Bowls. They weren't the number 1 seed going into it. So, but I just look at the sequencing after that 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 from the 4, where I talked about if I had been Mike Vrabel, I would have been having Derrick Henry run the ball twice to pick up a first down there and score a touchdown. But at that point, it really felt like both the Ravens offense and the Ravens defense either felt like it was over or they were waiting for the other side of the ball to finish off the game. Ravens get 1 first down. After that, they had 3rd and inches after the failed challenge of the spot, false start. Lamar overthrows Mark Andrews, who was open for a big play. I mean, that could have sealed the game there. Incomplete. You punt it back to them, and then at that point, after the Ravens had really done a really nice job on Derrick Henry through 3 quarters. I mean, you look at what they gave up through the first 3 quarters of the game, 70 rushing yards on 21 carries to the Titans. I mean, you'll take that, especially knowing there was no Brandon Williams, there was no Calais Campbell. But come the 4th quarter and into overtime, 12 carries, 104 yards allowed. Technically, it was 13 for 103. One of those was a quarterback kneel. So the defense, did they think the offense was getting ready to finish it off? Vice versa. I mean, this is a team that, starting with the Philadelphia game, and I went back and looked at this late Sunday night as I'm watching the end of the Chiefs-Raiders game, and I'm trying to look at some stats to kind of see where things are. I looked at the defense because we've been talking about the inconsistency of the offense really from week 2, week 3. They put up big points against Cleveland. Lamar threw the ball all over the place. Everyone's saying, this offense is going to be better than it was last year. But you look at the defense, and I looked specifically at the second half defense. I looked through their first 5 games. In the second half, against Cleveland, 0 points allowed. Against Houston, 6 points allowed. Against Kansas City, which the Ravens were, that was kind of garbage time at that point. I mean, that game was over at halftime, but 7 points allowed. Against Washington, 7 points allowed in the second half. Against Cincinnati, that garbage field goal at the very end, which ticked off Wink Martindale and the defense so much because they wanted the shutout. So through their first 5 games, Nestor, they gave up 23 points in the second half total. Since then, second half defense gave up 28 against Philadelphia.
Yeah, the Philadelphia thing is where the slippery slide began. I mean, that's where you said, like, they can't close, they can't finish. Yeah. That's sort of where they lost.
And that's a bad team. That's a bad team. I mean, the Eagles are proving week in and week out, and apologies to my brother-in-law. He's a big Philadelphia fan. He'd be the first to tell you
That's
that's
a
a bad team right
playoff
now.
team in the United States of America during a
Well,
pandemic. Trust me.
somehow. I mean, hey, the biggest blessing for the Ravens might be that this is the year they got to play the NFC East, and they still have 2 NFC East games left. So that might be the saving grace that ultimately gets them in the
Hey,
playoffs
look,
at this
dude,
point.
last week you were giving me Jacksonville and the Giants as a gimme. Now Burrow's gone with the Bengals, but there are no
Nothing's a
gimmies.
gimme.
Dude, I was the
On the
idiot who
road.
picked them to beat the Patriots 37-3 last week, and I was being serious. I was not being
Yeah.
like I thought that was going to be a blowout of a game, and here we are, and everything's just kind of falling apart for them right now, and this happens. I mean, it does happen, but as I pointed out, 4:00 in the morning, you're going to beat up everybody. This is a different football team than the way it was supposed to be constructed, and I don't think you lose $100 million left tackles and core parts of your offense and interior parts of your defense and just stand up and beat the better teams. Maybe you beat the Eagles or the Giants or some of the – I don't think you beat the Titans that way. You didn't beat Cam Newton that way.
The Titans had the same deal, though.
But I
just rolled off all the players that were hurt for them. I mean,
Thursday night, I mean, I harbor very little thought that somehow Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger are going to be sleeping. I worry about Thursday night, quite frankly, because this is not going well right now. The body language isn't going well. I don't want to say the pedigree, but I don't know who these guys are. I don't see a Ray Lewis in this bunch right here. I'm trying to figure out who's going to – what Marlon Humphrey or Lamar Jackson, whether they're real leaders or pretend leaders or what's going to happen here. But somewhere – and we put up on the top of Baltimore Positive, and Lord knows that Don Moeller and I sit here and we talk about the problems in our country right now. We talk about the problems in a lot of ways, leadership, right? And, I like me some Eric DeCosta, and I like me some John Harbaugh on a leadership level, but who is the leadership council on the team, and where does the bleeding stop to go to Pittsburgh on Thursday night and say, no. We're not going to die on Thanksgiving night and go out there and lose 38-13, get slapped around and kick the ball around and whine about being tired and whine about injury. Like, I don't know who that is. I don't. But, boy, there's a code red going on out in Owings Mills here the next 72 hours, and somebody better be a leader. And I don't know what that means, and I don't know who that is. But they're going to find out where their heart is the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think it's, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier in our discussion here, I think it's easy to lead from the front, meaning you're winning games and you're playing well and you're going out there and you're not just beating teams, but you're destroying teams and you're having fun in post-game press conferences and, everyone's having fun during the week and, you're excited about Lamar Jackson being in the MVP race and you're excited about 12, 13 guys making the Pro Bowl the way they did last year. But true leadership is handling the adversity. And we talked about this. This team was so blessed last year. And I don't want to make it out to be that they were just lucky because that would be unfair to how special that team was last year. But they had very few serious injuries that weren't something that they couldn't overcome. Tony
I call it turbulence. Let's call it turbulence.
I mean, let's think about this, Nestor. They lost Tony Jefferson for the season in Pittsburgh, and the guy who replaced him was better than Tony Jefferson. I mean, that's just where they were. And they had, second half of the season, they had very few. The one serious injury they had the second half of the season, Matt Skura. Patrick McCarry came in, and it was a seamless transition, which, by the way, a big story that was kind of lost in the drama and disappointment Sunday. Matt Skura benched in favor of Patrick McCarry. But, I do wonder about who are the guys on this team at this point that are putting an arm or not. There's the two schools of thought. One is putting the proverbial boot into someone's butt and say, hey, let's get going. And then the other type where someone needs an arm around their shoulder. And social distancing, I get all that. But, the metaphor of that, saying, guys, we're okay. Look, we've struggled. We've lost some games here. But look at everything we still have going for us. We're 6-4. We're right there. you get through this Pittsburgh game. Let's go out there and get a win. We'll get we'll get the weekend to regroup, and then we have Dallas coming to our building.
Dude, I think, listen, Friday
But
morning, if I'm here having Rofo with you and eating, doing the eggnog pumpkin thing here and feeling all seasonal, and somehow they win some slappy 27-24 game, I don't know. I mean, you make it up. I mean, win. They could win by decimals for all I care on Thursday night. If somehow they win, it resurrects their season. So there is a Gipper speech in here, and everybody was asking who said what in the aftermath and who's the leader and where's the leader. Lamar's still hard to catch, you know what I mean? And if they decide to go out there and play Lamar ball on Thursday night and they can't catch him, and if that's the way it goes because he is special like that, I don't know. I mean, they win. It changes everything. It does feel less than believable for now, I would say.
That's fair. But even with what you just mentioned, Lamar ball, he carried the ball 13 times on Sunday. He had 51 yards, 3.9 yards per carry. I think part of the issue here is everyone keeps wanting things to just go back to the way they were last year. Teams have caught up. Doesn't mean it's solved. Doesn't mean their offense is horrendous, because it's not. I mean, they still scored 24 points on Sunday, which, by the way, isn't great. I'm not saying that, but believe me, they're not the worst offense in the league, despite what frustrated fans might say on social media. But they have issues. They're having their problems. Lamar Jackson has one guy he can really trust throwing the football to that's going to make plays. Willie Snead's a nice complementary player. Des Bryant caught a few passes on Sunday, and we'll see how that thing evolves. But to make plays as a receiver in this passing game, it's Mark Andrews, period. That's all they have. And that's a problem. So, you look at this team and you're trying to figure out how they're going to proceed and get back on track. And, even assuming they lose on Thursday night, if they do, they have a month of December that looks okay. Schedule-wise looks great, but you got to go out there and do it. And when you lose at New England and you blow an 11-point lead against Tennessee at home in the second half on Sunday, you're getting to a point where nothing really feels like a gimme anymore. And that's scary territory for a team that was 14-2 a year ago.
All right, Luke and I are going to be here most of the day, the week, leading up to Thursday night. Don Moeller and I have a lot of conversations about gratitude and the holidays coming your way as well with a bunch of our clients and friends. You'll hear from Todd Schuler, damngoodlawyer.com. Dennis Kalatzos is going to be here doing some holiday seasonal stuff. A little bit of a weird week. We were all looking forward to this Steelers-Ravens thing. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at the Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast. I got the tasty Rofo in the mug. I'm getting some chicken this week to go along with my turkey. My wife and I picked up the turkey. We went to Wise. We're getting ready for football, trying to make things better around here. Our friends at Sporticulture are getting ready for Black Friday as well. Court's coming on this week. We're going to talk about the Magma lamp, but they also have the car light. I don't know if you've seen the car light. We're going to be talking about that. You can go to sporticulture.com to learn more about that. And I'm going to try to track down Matt Stover for the holiday and talk some gratitude with him. We had Torrey Smith on last week. We'll continue to try to track down champions around here as we get through the season. Coach Billick's going to check in as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.